So, I mean, it's a horrifying thing to realize that, I think, in the beginning, but then it becomes a superpower. Because then once you know that you can change that thing that your nervous system is projecting out, and you can change the reason it's projecting it, then and only then do you actually start to become who you really are, like who you came to the planet to be. Because all the rest of this stuff is just an armor protective system that your nervous system built before you really understood that that was what was happening, or before you really had age and wisdom enough to decide for yourself. The system did it for you. So, really, now as a grown up, knowing that you can change it becomes a personal superpower. Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna. We're the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show.
We're also the creators of the Cognomovement system, where we help you rewire your nervous system so you can rewire your reality.
Join us each week for great conversations, amazing guests, and cutting-edge information on health, consciousness, and the keys to transformation.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, we're posing the question, why do you need to change your nervous system to make real and lasting change in your life, in your consciousness, in your health, in your ability to love greater in your relationships? So, hey, everybody, I'm Liz Larson. I'm here with Bill McKenna. We are the creators of the Cognomovement system, and we're the experts on rewiring your nervous system. Cognomovement rewires your reality. We transform your life, your health, and your consciousness through this little thing that we call the nervous system. Hey, Bill McKenna.
Hey there. This is really an exciting episode because it cuts right to the very thing that's controlling our lives.
It really is so true. Your nervous system is the thing that is said controls 95% of your life, but you may have heard it said a different way. You may have heard it said your subconscious controls 95% of your life, meaning everything you do, say, eat, what time you go to bed, which way you drive your car, all the things are basically on a form of autopilot, which means only 5% are you really making conscious decisions or using your frontal lobes of your brain to really choose what you want to do. We were talking off camera earlier about dieting and cravings, and how when a person tries to go on a diet, their cravings take over and derail the diet, almost 100% of the time. It's probably 99% for most people. And most people go on a diet 3-4 times a year. So, that number goes up exponentially. But why do cravings rule the roost? Well, because they're your nervous system trying to go back on autopilot. So if you think about that, let's add relationships to that. If 95% of what you do and say in a relationship is on autopilot, and we'll talk about how that autopilot gets formed here in a minute, how much are you actually choosing the direction of your relationship? It's a really interesting question, isn't it, Bill? Like, how much are you actually in control of the direction of your relationship if 95% of everything you do is just automated?
It is, number one, it is the case. I think we can all really see it in ourselves. The term, I didn't really understand it back in the day. I knew the term subconscious, and I'd heard it over and over and over again. 95% of your reality is your subconscious, and that's what's creating the life that you've led. And when I heard the nervous system, I was like, wait, what? But, this whole thing with the nervous system began to make sense to me when Liz explained that, Bill, you can actually feel it. It's a feeling. Like when you get nervous, and you're like, oh, all of us have had the experience of nervousness, anxiety, fear. It's very relatable, whether it's finances or germs or approaching a new lover or getting married or divorced or you fill in the blank, whatever it is. There's a feeling, and you can actually literally feel it in your body. And that feeling, I think we can all relate to it. It's the nervous system. It's zzz, I don't know if everybody can relate to that. Well, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's that. I don't know if everybody on radio could hear, because sometimes the recording zaps it up, but Bill's making that buzzing noise, like a bee makes, that buzz in your system. It really is the thing that reacts. It really is the system that is used in the body to actually create that sensation. Our nervous system is how we feel anything. It's what sends signals to our fingers to feel. It's what takes in the information through our eyes, through your nose, through your ears, through your mouth, through your skin. It's the thing that actually reaches around you, probably 6 to 8 feet. And for some of us, it's bigger, and kind of senses what's going on in the atmosphere around you. You'll know, is it damp outside? Is it humid? Has the barometric pressure changed? Is there a thunderstorm building? Has someone just walked in the room that has not announced themselves, that doesn't feel right? It's all this system in our body that does that particular thing, takes in all the information and decides what to do with it. Where does it go? Is it a threat? Is it someone we love? You don't react to the pet that you love in your life with, woo, scared and nervous and afraid and, ready to run out of the room. You react automatically with your heart opening, the desire to pet and touch them. We automatically turn on this baby language with our pets. Like, why do we do it? But it's automatic, even for children to do it. All of that is pre-programmed stuff. And the nervous system is the function that handles it. Turns out that it's so much more than that. The fun parts are that it actually projects your reality. How your nervous system views the world, how it views threats, how it takes in information is literally how you see the world. So, for example, I was working with somebody recently who really felt like their whole life they'd been left out of things. Their family had left them out. They were on the outside looking in. And when that feeling, it's very unique in the body, was challenged, which is kind of what Cognomovement does, we give it a feedback loop to look at itself. When that happened and the system went, oh, wait a minute, that's not true at all, the whole perspective changed and her whole life looked different in the blink of an eye, in a moment. When the nervous system changes its assessment of the information it has, your reality changes, which is my personal favorite. That's what I think makes this thing so wonderful, and why I made the statement. To really change anything significant in your life, you have to change it at the nervous system level. You have to turn off the automations. So I asked you a question about relationships specifically, but let's talk about that. If you are doing 95% of the same thing every day and it's not working and it's on autopilot, what could a person do to change it? Like, what would you do if it's not the nervous system?
This is kind of the age-old question. Before Cognomovement came around onto the planet, what would you do? Well, I'm going to try harder. I'm just going to try harder. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to talk different approaches. Like, oh, don't say this, say that. Oh, they don't like flowers, but they do like to spend time together. They don't like spending time together or flowers. They appreciate you when you do actually some sort of service for them. That's how they see things. So you can try a variety of different techniques, but the problem exists that your system is created a feeling about this relationship. And they have their own feeling as well about the relationship. And these two feelings rub against each other. Sometimes these are harmonious, right? We've all had relationships that are good and harmonious. And when I say relationships, I mean all relationships, the relationship with your boss, with your employee, with your coworker, your brother, your sister, your neighbors. All of these are a reflection of what is going on inside our nervous system. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. Everybody has somebody on the block, that's been the don't throw the rocks into their yard. Do not run across their lawn. The person in your neighborhood. They've got a feeling. And there's other people in the neighborhood. There's a different feeling. It's like the door's open and the cookies are on the counter. Just, hey, how you doing? We're having a barbecue this weekend. Of course you're invited.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was our house. We had so many people at our house all the time. The door was just open. And our neighbors, I mean, there was a woman who didn't want kids playing in the street, cul-de-sac, because that was too close to her house. Like completely different makeup. I was just thinking about there's a statistics about people who actually go to marriage counseling and how many of those marriages survive. And the statistic is not great. It's not high. And the reason is that people show up at the marriage counseling, they show up with their presets, their preset nervous system. You're bringing your whole life with you in the form of your nervous system, everything it learned and experienced, and they are. And you've got somebody trying to change your logical mind to help you understand why your partner sees things the way they do. It's nearly impossible. You cannot see through the lens of all of their feelings, all of their emotions. It rarely makes sense, but when it does, there's a feeling in the body that happens. Everybody's experienced this, an epiphany, right? It's like being struck by lightning, where all of a sudden you see it from a brand new perspective. Well, that's exactly what happens when the nervous system changes. It literally rewires itself in a new configuration. And often with a real epiphany, one that lasts, that's where you get to keep that change. And I think those are the people who are really successful at marriage counseling. I think one big thing is most people have to want to, but by the time you've gotten there, usually it's so broken down, your communication already, you've butted heads, you've run into each other's, problems again and again and again, that it's almost too late. It's the people who really, really, really want to make it work that make the change. But it's not that people don't love each other when they go into marriage counseling. It really isn't that. Because you see these same people get divorced and hate each other so much that they're literally obsessed with making the other person miserable. When you're done with somebody, it's okay, go on your way, it's fine. But people don't, they hate each other for the rest of their lives. And that's rooted in still being focused on that other human. But they cannot get through that lens of the biggest or lowest common denominator in their nervous system. What's it focused on? If I think you take me for granted because everybody's taken me for granted in my life. And you think I'm giving everything I have. Why the hell can't you see that I'm giving you everything else, everything that I have? You're at a massive impasse. And each person believes it fully because that's how their nervous system has built so far. Those are the red flags for that human. So until you can break through that, you absolutely cannot see a different perspective. It's like when you get that new perspective, what it feels like is waking up or being underwater, and all of a sudden your head comes out of the water. You're like, oh my God, that's what this is really about. It's so easy. But before that, your automations or your presets in your nervous system or subconscious, they're built there to protect you. Your nervous system thinks it's keeping you safe. It's not trying to make you be a jerk. You know, the woman in our cul-de-sac when I was growing up, I don't think she intended to be a terrible human, but she really, really needed to protect her house and her family and her yard. To feel safe, she needed the kids to stay as far away from her house as she could. Not meanness, but protection. So when a person thinks about it that way, thinks about another human in that way, it really changes everything, at least in my opinion. All right, you guys, we have to take a quick break and hear from our good sponsors. We'll be right back. So we're back. We ended talking about, and this may have been the first time for people to ever hear this, that nervous systems, people, that 95% automation is intended to protect you, to protect the person, not to be a complete and utter jerk. What do you think about that?
That's, kind of an amazing thing. I had a therapists that I was friends with. They were therapists for over 50 years. 50 years. You can imagine how many tens of thousands of people that they saw in marriage counseling and family counseling. And what I found really interesting is the distillation of what they knew to be true. Everyone that walks through the door and sits down, they have the one thing in common. I'm right. I'm right. Can you imagine that? 50 years of problems about all kinds, real serious problems. Whatever side of the coin they're on, I'm right. Now, thinking about that in terms of this subconscious nervous system feeling, we've all been there. I'm right. And let me tell you why I'm right. I got a lot of reasons why I'm right. And being right not only is a feeling, but it's a perspective. It's a perspective. The other person sitting there right beside you in the room, I'm right too, And so this begs the question, I thought there was something really, one of these songs, I don't know if you ever heard the song, but what the line in the song, there's two people on the corner. They both say they're Jesus. One of them must be lying. So somebody's right, somebody's wrong. It's not really that. It's simply perspective. It's simply perspective. And the locking in of ourselves into a perspective is really neurological. It's literally, I'm stuck. And this work, this Cognomovement work, one of the most amazing things that we've discovered over time is that we can actually see it. We can see the nervous system stuck physically. So the eyeballs, the brain, and the spinal cord are literally the nervous system. They're the conveyors of electricity. And I heard it put, if you stretch the brain into the retinas and then stretched it again down the spine, that's it. That's your system. So here we are, doing this work, Cognomovement, and when someone has something that they're stuck in, literally within the work, as we're working with the person, we can tell in their eyes and the way they move, the way they won't move, what the ability is in their peripheral, the ability to track, the ability to keep their eyes in a position, the amount of pain, all kinds of factors, even the glistening of an eye. We can tell what's happening in their nervous system. And there's this whole body of work to help to correct.
Yeah, absolutely. The eyes are the window to the soul. I mean, that's true, but it's really the window to your nervous system, to all of your automated responses. It's the most amazing thing. You know, an actor, when they're really good, they can bring the light to their eyes that's recognizable by anyone who's sighted, that there's real joy in there. You can smile, you can make all the facial expressions you want that look like a real smile, but until the eyes have a particular light that turns on in them, there, you know, there's no joy there. You're not seeing real emotion. Now, here's the thing that we've figured out that really changes a person's life, that sets things apart. So Bill said the eyes and the brain and the spinal cord are the nervous system. They're the root. But the nervous system extends literally throughout every part of our body and beyond. And the body actually holds the feeling part somewhere else. That light in the eyes comes from somewhere else, a different signal in the body. And it's the entire body. Everybody would assume or used to think that the subconscious is a function of the brain, of the mind, but that's only one end of it. People's pain can get stuck in their knee, in their elbow, in their left ear. And conversely, their joy. If you think about the person in your life that you love the most, or even your pets, I know everybody just did it, there is a sensation somewhere in your body of, you know, something that feels like warm or buzzing or even a little bit of pressure. And that is the thing that sends that signal to light up your eyes. It's an emotion. It's a feeling in the body. And that's how Bill and I became experts at the nervous system, at changing people's lives through it, is we understood that. The body is having a reaction that sends that signal to the brain, and then the brain interprets it. When the brain interprets the meaning of that feeling in your body, that's what you see in the eyes, the interpretation. Why is that so important? It is immensely, immensely important because the interpretation is that autopilot, that automated response. It's the interpretation that has to be changed. If I believe that my husband is just totally being a jerk by leaving his underwear on the floor and that he is trying to ruin my life with that singular pair of underwear next to the hamper nut in it, I have a very particular feeling about that. It constricts my blood vessels. It will actually create that constriction in my kidneys, which will raise my blood pressure. It sends the signal to my brain, alert, 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 there's danger here. This person, those underwear equal a threat in my body. And then my mind goes, well, there's a threat here. He wants to, you know, ruin my life. He's probably cheating. He probably spent all the money in the bank, right? My brain interprets this big feeling in my body about what that means, but my body learned it from somewhere else. My body learned it from maybe when I was a child, and my mom said, "You're ruining my life with that pair of underwear on the floor." Or maybe in your house, the house was a complete train wreck, a big mess. And your body was like, no, 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 that's bad, right? All of that creates an emotion in my body that sends a signal to my brain, danger, danger, danger. And the eyes are going to then show that emotion. In Cognomovement, we're looking for exactly that. Where is that problem? The eyes are going to show us exactly the place in the brain that's going to extend to the emotion, or vice versa. We can work from either end of this system. But once a person understands that signal of emotion in the body informs the mind, then you realize that all of your thoughts are not necessarily accurate, that they're based in a long history of learning what is a threat and what's not a threat. It sounds complex, but it's actually really simple. Your feelings are going to inform your mind. Your mind is going to make up the interpretation, and that's what you're going to act on. That's where your actions come from, is right there. You're going to act. You know, if it's the underwear and the husband, you might find yourself screaming like a crazy person about the underwear, you know, and maybe they fell out of the hamper. Maybe they were in there the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a funny example, but your nervous system handles your input of information and your output of information. That output of information creates your life. You got to change the way the system interprets it to change that output, to change what life really looks like.
You know, I love the way that you put it on the electric fence, because it really clearly illustrated it. And it was so relatable to me that all of us have this electric fence around us. And by that, I mean, it's a great metaphor in that how far will I go? Now, when I was a child, I had my tricycle, and my electric fence was don't cross the street. I'll go all around the block, and then, you know, but that was the electric fence. Don't cross the street. Well, this electric fence, as an adult, you know, when I'm, you know, a teenager and there's this, you know, beautiful girl and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, if I could just approach her, oh my God, no way, she would never be interested in me. I can't, oh, this is going to be embarrassing as heck, you know, and your heart's pounding, oh my God, you know, and that electric fence that either, you know, would it permit me to actually approach and say hi? Or it's like, she's so gorgeous that just forget it, Bill, forget it, just back off, because you don't want that kind of rejection and embarrassment or whatever. That was my electric fence. How far could I go? And you know, you see it all around us, you know, there's all these people that are like millionaires, and you look at them and they're like so not afraid, you know, oh, buy that piece of property or make that investment. They're like, yeah, got it, yeah, that good, all right, let me get some detail. And there's other people are like, oh, you know, people, you know, that you'll make excuses like, I can't own a house because it's the down payment, and, you know, I don't know. And so you've got this thing there, this electric fence, but everybody's got a different one. Elon Musk is electric fence, man, his is way out there. You know, he's a great example as far as electric fences. You know, his fence line, I don't know where it is, but it's pretty far out there.
Yeah, that would be an interesting study to find out where his electric fences are. I think the thing that's so fascinating about them, these things that hold us back, that stop us, is why? Where did they come from? Why do you feel the way you do? It's so interesting. You look at school kids. I was thinking about this just today, this morning. So in school, there's always the popular kids, the subpopular kids, the nerdy, smart kids. And then you've got the kids that are misfits that don't fit in anywhere. And when you show up at school, everybody sort of knows their place. Why? Why do you show up that way? What makes you feel like you're not the kid at the top? I was thinking about my dad. My dad wasn't a tall man. He was obviously an Italian guy, big Roman nose, you know, and you wouldn't say the classic beautiful man, but I'm telling you, even into his 80s, the women just would not stay away from him. He had so much charisma, and it never occurred to him that the whole world didn't love him. That's just the way he was set up. So there were women who had been models in their life, beautiful, tall women who just, they would have fought my mom off with a stick. Some of them tried, really. So what makes him believe that he's got no electric fence? He just didn't have a problem in that area, where another man might just have just terrible insecurity around that same thing. It's all these little tiny inputs to the nervous system. This is such a big clue to why you do what you do. There's a million tiny inputs that happen all the time, every day. And it's how your nervous system reacted to them in the moment that really builds how you feel about yourself today. So if you overheard something about yourself as a 4-year-old that you misinterpreted, your nervous system will bring that in if it hurt a little bit, if it felt like it was about who you are as a human, and it'll tuck that away as information about who you are. A million of those add up to who you are today. And I think that is what is so freeing about what we do, is you can find those and just delete them because they're not true. They're absolutely not true. My dad, what he believed about himself, who decided it was true or not true? Him. He was the only one, right? Whatever he believed about himself, that emanated around him, and he was just a chick magnet, right? They were brought in, like, what is that thing on Star Trek? The tractor beam.
Tractor beam.
They were caught in his tractor beam of I am the brightest light in the room. All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this tractor beam versus the thing that literally punches people in the face before they get anywhere near you. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're talking about how the nervous system can be the thing that attracts or detracts people from your life by what it projects out about you. Have you ever known anybody like this, Bill, that, man, they just walked in the room and it felt like everybody got a punch to the mouth?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've actually known quite a few. It is I'm going to use myself as an example. I told this story before, but it got to the point where it was kind of humorous. Like children for me, in strollers, and I had lots of nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters. I got 12 brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews and stuff. And I would just go by the stroller and just, if I would get into proximity, the kid would start crying. And I was like, and after litmus test, time after time, this type of thing would happen, then, my nature at the time was like, hey, let's go by. Hey, child, it's like, anyway, it was very much my projection. All that changed in a day and has never gone back. It's the opposite now, but I know it. Certainly I can see it in others, but I love the example of your father and this Casanova energy. And I find it really, really it is everybody's heard the story of Casanova, and that it was like this myth, but actually there's an emitting of a particular energy.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that we both know that has this. He has this. And even here, pushing again way into the senior citizen age, he like, 20-year-olds are like, hey, what's up? It's just like they get caught in the magnetism, and it's like it doesn't even make any logical sense, but it simply is.
Well, once you become fully aware that this 95% autopilot that your nervous system is running literally emanates and projects itself into the world around you. It's literally like that terrible dream everybody has where you're downtown and naked. When you realize that everything you think and feel about yourself is not hidden, people feel it energetically because your system is projecting it. And there's a really big reason. Your system wants to protect you. If you're my dad, you're happy for the world to come and talk to you. He didn't care who approached him and talked to him. He wanted everybody to. So his nervous system was a tractor beam letting everybody in. But there are those other people who feel very insecure. And the minute you walk into their presence, you know it. You know it. A really, really good liar has the ability to actually project out that they're telling the truth. It is real to them. Do you ever hear of like somebody who lies so much they believe their own lies?
Yes.
Literally, their body is convinced that they're telling the truth. Their version of events is correct. But it is a thing that is a function of the system. People used to think like ESP and all of that was like a woo-woo thing, and probably a lot of people still do. But Bill and I know that all it really is your nervous system is really, really good at picking up those cues. And it's a greater conversation, but there's a way to pick them up over thousands of miles, but it still is your nervous system interpreting those signals. So, it's a horrifying thing to realize that, I think, in the beginning, but then it becomes a superpower. Because then once you know that you can change that thing that your nervous system is projecting out, and you can change the reason it's projecting it, then and only then do you actually start to become who you really are, like who you came to the planet to be. Because all the rest of this stuff is just an armor protective system that your nervous system built before you really understood that was what was happening, or before you really had age and wisdom enough to decide for yourself. The system did it for you. So really now as a grown-up, knowing that you can change it becomes a personal superpower. At least that's my opinion. What do you think?
Well, of course, that's a superpower. If you can actually at will change it. There was no choice before. You were battling uphill. You're trying to tell yourself, I'm wealthy when you feel poor.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to tell yourself that I'm loving when I feel anger. It's just an absolute push. And all it does is create this internal conflict, and you can become congruent. The fears, the anger, the humiliation, and all of these different things that we all have going, the self-judgments, can all simply go away because I don't feel it anymore. People, everybody knows people in their life that have had things happen, and you're kind of amazed. Why isn't that person just hiding in their house and just ashamed? But they don't. They don't feel it. They don't feel it. That's the way they're set up. They have a different war going on inside them, most likely, but that's not the one. my point is that events in life, whatever they might be, even your body, like we talked about this Casanova thing, when you certainly shouldn't be so darn attractive when you're 80 years old, but you're still attracting the 20 years old for some reason, because your system is just emanating something else.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, people going to couples therapy, but we have a heck of a lot of practitioners, Cogno movement practitioners, who are therapists. And the reason they love it is because they can help change people quite quickly. The people who are Cogno movement practitioners who are therapists have been therapists a long time. And the one thing they say is, oh my God, I've heard the same story for 10 years. Like, nothing changes. Their perspective never changes. And with Cogno movement, they've found that it's not a perspective in the mind that can be changed. It's a feeling in the body that's informing the mind. Changing the logical mind is like fighting with a terrorist or a toddler. When they can change the way a person feels very quickly, then the mind catches up and the person is able to change just super easily. In fact, they don't just change, their life starts a new trajectory. Because without that singular opinion of their nervous system that's been holding them back, they're free to literally do anything they want. One of our practitioners told me a story about a person who was just terrified about leaving their house, just terrified that they were going to do something wrong. And they were able to go out in public recently for the first time and really enjoy themselves, after a couple of sessions. Just none of that is there anymore. That perspective faded away as though it never existed. That's the cool part. It's not true in the first place, usually what your nervous system thinks about something. So you get to see the truth of what's really happening around you. And then you get to choose whatever the heck you want to do next, which is incredibly, incredibly freeing. I really think psychology had it wrong by telling us that our subconscious was unlikely to be accessed and not likely to be changed. We can change it. We can change the body. We can change the mind. We can change your spirituality. We can change your consciousness. We can rewire your life with these tools, and everyone can do it for themselves. I think that's one of the most exciting things about this. It's actually way easier than anyone thinks. And actually, on that note, we have an event coming up that helps people do this really, really quickly. Would you tell everybody about that?
So coming up here in September, we have our big event. We have this once a year. And for 5 solid days, you go through a process where you eliminate all of the shame and humiliation, the guilt and grief, the anger, the fear, the resentment, all of the enslavement through your cravings, all of your distrust, all of the things that keep you from love, from bliss, from success, from joy. There's a ladder of consciousness, levels of consciousness that we work through one at a time, utilizing these Cogno movement tools to rewire your nervous system. So what you end up with is an entirely new life. You can imagine for people out there, if they're one thing, let's just say their fear was gone, the fear of a lifetime or the self-judgment of a lifetime was gone. Like, we're not saying, oh, I talked myself into it and it's okay, I did that, but I don't feel bad anymore. No, I'm saying you literally don't feel it anymore. You're not talking yourself. That's a big thing here. We're not talking you into something. This is your nervous system lets go, and you just don't think about it anymore. You don't feel it anymore. what would happen in your life? I can tell you from years of graduates of the 5-day program, the Cogno Conscious program, that their life changes dramatically.
Yeah, we want to invite you to join us there. All right, we are absolutely out of time, Bill McKenna. We'll see everybody next time. Until then, be safe and be well. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.